Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So today I am building a house that I have decided to call Floridian Home, and this is a house that is based off of a real life house. So I wanted to do a build that was inspired by Floridian style architecture. So all I did was go to Google and I searched for Floridian architecture and just scrolled through the pictures until I found a house that I liked. So this is a real house. It's actually built by some home builder in Florida. I don't remember their name. But yeah, so this is a real house that real people can use in the real world. And it will look almost exactly like the house that I have built here in The Sims 4. So since this was a house that was on a builder's website, they included the floor plan of it, which I for years, I have loved looking at floor plans of houses. Like, as a kid, I would draw floor plans of houses for fun. I wouldn't actually play with them. I would just draw out what I thought the floor plan should be. I was a strange child. But anyways, so I was actually able to look at the floor plan for this house specifically. So the inside is not 100% exactly like what the inside of the real house is, but it's very, very similar. So there's one room that's not normally a room. It's normally an attached garage. Like if you're looking at the house and you see that section off of the back that's kind of sticking out a little bit, in the real world, that's actually an attached garage. And since we don't have cars or garages in The Sims 4, I didn't really feel like putting a garage in on this build because I've done it before and it like aesthetically it looks fine. But because it was also a side loading garage, then that meant that you would also have to be able to get like a driveway off of the side, and it was too complicated. So I repurposed it, and you'll see in a little bit here when we get to that room what I turned it into. So yeah, so this beginning part is a lot of pausing and stopping and pausing and stopping, which for the most part, I tried to edit out as much of that as I possibly could. If you haven't already noticed, this is a very long video. I thought about splitting it up into 2 videos, but when I did that with my Wintermas Lodge video that I did back around Christmas time, I felt like disconnected a little bit between the 2 parts, which, I mean, obviously there's going to be some of a disconnect there because they were 2 separate videos. So I'm just doing this as one big old glorious speed build video. So in real life, this took me in total almost 6 hours to do. It was like 5 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. It was a long time. And so yeah, so I wanted to try to mimic what was in the picture as closely as I possibly could. Obviously in The Sims 4, you know, there are some limitations as to what we can do with like roof placement and that sort of thing. In particular, like for example, the balconies off of the front of the house, they should have like a roof piece underneath them, but there's no way to do that without having the roof going through the balcony, which that just makes no sense. So you know, there are a few small changes there, but generally it's pretty much how it is. And I also, on a lot of the corners, there's like that white vertical trim. And I know we have a wallpaper in game that it automatically puts a white trim on the corner. Well, it's white with the blue swatch, which is what this house was, so that worked out well. But for some reason, I've always had this issue with that wallpaper where it doesn't put it on all of the corners. Like, it'll do it on some of the corners, but not all of the ones that you would think. So I don't skip over very much in this video. I did skip over doing the layout of the house because I thought it was a little bit boring, and you'll see the layout as I'm building the house itself. And I also put in like an overhead shot of the layout of the house in the screenshots at the end of the video. So if you're really, really curious, you can wait until the end of the video and see it there. Because a lot of making the layout was just me counting squares and trying to figure out, okay, so if I make this room this size, how does that impact the room next to it? And like, that's just boring and a waste of time. I mean, it's a necessary part of the build, but you guys don't need to see that. It's quite boring. So This is the main entrance area and the kitchen and the living room. So this is, as I said before, this is pretty much how the layout is. So this is where the kitchen is in the original build. It's right next to the front door, which is a little unusual, I think, but I think it made for a really nice shape of the kitchen. Like, that area in front of the window is just screaming, like, put a sink here. Like, I need a sink. Because, I don't know, I always like it when a sink looks out, like a kitchen sink, not a bathroom sink, but a kitchen sink looks out of a window. Because, like, typically, if you're hand washing, you're standing there at the sink for like hours at a time sometimes, depending on how much you have to do. I mean, like, I know growing up, there were times where my parents would spend like 30 to 40 minutes sometimes after a big dinner cleaning all the pots and pans, because growing up we didn't have a dishwasher. And like, it was nice because they could do it together, and it was like how they would like de-stress and unwind from the day. But if you're doing it by yourself and you don't have anyone to talk to, it's incredibly boring. So if there's a window there, you can just look out the window and chill, and it's so nice. So I always like trying to put a sink in front of the window because, I don't know, it just makes it seem like more realistic. I also decided to go with like a darker wood for the cabinet. Okay, this is such an odd thing. I don't like white countertops in The Sims. And the reason why is because all of the plates are also white. And so sometimes when you have an empty plate sitting on the counter, you might not always see that it's there. And two, then it can be difficult, like if you're having to manually tell your Sims to clean things up. Like, sometimes you tell them to clean up all the dishes and they do all the dishes, and sometimes they only clean up like some of the dishes. So it just, for me, I just don't like white countertops. So I went with this dark wood that had the gray tile. So even though this house is, for the most part, it's very light and airy, I wanted the kitchen to feel like not necessarily Spanish in style, although there is like a lot of the red tile on the floor and maybe, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a Spanish influence to it. But I also wanted it to feel like cozy. So I decided to put one of the dining tables in the middle to serve as sort of like an island. And I put some like cereal boxes and the salt and pepper shakers and the little seasoning jars that came with, I think, Dine Out or Cool Kitchen. I forget which one. So I just tried to make this kitchen feel like as realistic and homey as possible, with like, a cutting board and knives and spices and lots of cooking utensils. And I still tried to make sure that there was enough counter space to actually prepare meals, because I do sometimes have that problem in The Sims where I'm like, yay, kitchen clutter, and I go overboard, and then there's no room for anything else. I did also put in the ice cream machine from Cool Kitchen, which I don't always use, but I thought, you know what? You're living in Florida. You're probably going to eat a decent amount of ice cream because it is so stupidly humid and hot. So then I decided this really pretty palm plant would be nice to have right by the front door, and the coat rack, which, in Florida you may or may not need a coat, but hey, it's there if you need it. And so now we're moving on to the living room area. And again, I wanted to make this room in particular feel very light, very nature inspired almost. So I know typically those wicker couches and love seats are used as outdoor furniture, but I wanted to use them inside. For one thing, I really like the color on them, and wicker furniture, just when I think of typical Floridian styled furniture, I think of wicker. So I was like, all right, we're gonna do that. We also later on in the dining room used the wicker dining room chairs that came in the laundry day stuff pack. So I didn't want it to be too white and light in here. I wanted to have a little bit of contrast. So there's a lot of browns and greens and a little bit of blue in here as well. So that kind of limey green almost that you see in that rug. It also is in the pillows, and then I also use it just kind of as an accent color throughout the room. So I also really love having all of those big glass doors leading out to what will eventually become the outdoor area, because again, like, you can just open up the doors and let all the nice warm, sometimes humid air in. So I felt like that felt very Floridian to me. So I don't know that I even got into this, but so the reason why I was thinking about Florida and Floridian architecture, because I don't live in Florida, but I was thinking about this a lot in the past few days or so, because so you're watching this on Monday, and my birthday was yesterday, and last year for my birthday I went on a trip to Disney World with my husband to celebrate my birthday, because it was like a milestone type of birthday. And I always get this way when it's like a year after a trip, and I'm like, oh, 1 year ago today I was at Disney World. So I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I like the style of architecture in general. Like, it feels like a vacation. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't live in Florida, so maybe if you actually live in Florida year round, you would have a different opinion. But to me, I see this type of architecture specifically, and I'm like, yes, vacation. It also probably doesn't help that we stayed at Old Key West when we were there, which, if you know anything about Disney World or the hotels, Old Key West is inspired by Key West, Florida. So a lot of the architecture there is very similar to what is in this house. It's not exact, but it's sort of loosely inspired by that as well. So that's the connection to Florida for all of you, in case you were wondering, like, why this crazy girl from Ohio is thinking about Florida. That's why. So we've moved on now to the office. So the office I wanted to be very different from the main area of the house. So because this is going to be a quieter space to go kind of get away from the chaos potentially that could be happening in the kitchen and the living room. Because when I think of like kitchens and living rooms and dining rooms, like, I always think of like a lot of people, like family and friends, and like, you know, there's just a lot going on. So this is a quieter space where you can kick back with a book, or you can play chess, or you can browse the internet, or you know, just a kind of a separate space to just kind of have a quiet workspace. So I went with a lot of like black and dark grayish blue. I also tried to make it a little bit more modern looking and less traditional, because I also thought that, well, for one thing, I really like that wallpaper in general, but I also thought that if that was a room where it might not blend in well with the decorative theme of the rest of the house, like, that's a room that you can get away with that, because it's typically a more private room. And you know, you're not usually going to have a bunch of people walking into your office all the time, maybe. So this is now the dining room. So the dining room, I again went with a lot of like light and airy colors, and I also went with a lot of like kind of white painted or whitewashed wood. So the table is a base game table. It's that table that it's like a crafting table or something, but it's just a little bit more rustic looking. And then I used the white wicker dining chairs that came with the laundry day stuff pack. So yeah, a lot of white, a lot of like creamy yellows. I don't know that I've used this wallpaper very much, but I love it. It is so perfect for this room, because I also wanted it to feel like just a little nautical, a little maybe more New England-y than the rest of the house. So it's kind of a blend here. It's a little bit New England-y, and it's also a little bit Florida. So right now it feels probably a little bit more New England-y, but then I do put in like a lot of like ferns and plants and planter boxes and stuff, and I tried to make the room feel like, I don't know, like more tropical in a way. In general, on this build, I use a lot of plants in my decoration because, for one thing, Florida typically has plants growing year-round, and I don't know, I just think of a lot of potted plants when I think of like how people decorate in Florida. So because this is the main dining area, and I also put in like an 8-person table, so this is more of a, not a party room, but like a get-together, a gathering space, if you will. So I decided to also put in like a little bit of like a sidebar area with these 2 china cabinets, and then that hall table that came with backyard stuff, I think. I don't remember. And then I put in like, you know, a decorative plate and some yummy pastries sitting in one of those fancy little dome things. And then I did struggle here for a little bit trying to figure out what type of a rug I wanted to put under the table, because it definitely needed something, because I didn't want it to feel too bare. So I went with this rug, which I actually don't remember. It's a swatch on one of the rugs that we've gotten in a more recent pack. Like, I know it's not base game, but I don't actually remember which one it is. And so I also moved the archway for the room over a little bit. So now we have this extra wall space in the kitchen. So I put in what's it called? The bulletin board? What is that called? It came with the Parenthood game pack, and it's the thing that lets you like set a curfew. Because this house is definitely a family home. So once we get into the bedrooms, obviously there's a master bedroom, and then there's a kid's bedroom and a teenager's bedroom. So originally, this is the extra garage space that I was thinking about. I was originally going to be like, okay, we could turn this into like a workshop. Then I was like, outside of a wood bench, we don't have that many other things that would go in here, and it just seemed like so dark and drab. So I decided to go in the complete opposite direction. And since this is a kid-friendly house, it's a family home, I decided to turn this into a giant, glorious playroom that's like bursting with color. Like, I don't put playrooms in my builds. If I have kids or kids' rooms in what I'm building, I usually just stick toys in their bedrooms. But I had the space, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, they are going to get like the most over-the-top extra playroom down here. So there's a variety of activities for both toddlers and kids. So obviously I put in the toddler slide that came with the toddler stuff pack, and there's the dollhouse that also came with the toddler stuff pack, and then the little blocks that I think were patched in with the base game toddler stuff. And then I also put in things for kids, like the puppet theater. There is that block table that I think came with Parenthood, which is funny because like it can be used by toddlers, but only after a kid builds something with it. I don't know, it's a little weird. But so I put that in, and a lot of things are kind of like in a pink, purple, and teal color palette, which is probably a little bit more on the girly side, but honestly, this room could be used happily by boys or girls. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, this is just like the playroom that every kid dreams of having. That's kind of where I was going with this. So it also, I was thinking like, you know, if the parents are ever having like a dinner party where, say, they've invited over good friends of theirs and those good friends also have kids, then you, as the host kid, have to come up with a way to entertain the visiting kids. And this type of a playroom is the perfect way to do that, I think. Because I do remember growing up, my parents had friends who were like, they went to college with them, and they had kids who were almost the exact same ages as myself and my siblings. So when we would go over to their house, like, the parents would all hang out together, and then the kids would all hang out together. Or, you know, vice versa, then they would come to our house, and it would be the same thing in reverse. So yeah, I was just thinking back to like those times when I was doing that room, like, okay, so if I had the task as like an 8-year-old to entertain other 8-year-olds and maybe kids who were even younger than that, what would be the best possible place for me to do that? So that was how I was thinking about the playroom when I was doing that. And now I'm just doing a little bit of fixing the roof because I realized that some of it was clipping through the balcony there, and I don't know. I love having like a lot of different roofing options, but sometimes the roof stuff in The Sims 4 just confuses me, and it doesn't always make a lot of sense. Like I'm trying, I'm working on it. I'd like to think that my roofing skills are getting better, but it's still kind of tricky. So I believe next is the master bedroom and ensuite bathroom. So in the original build, you enter into the master bedroom through like a little short hallway area where you can either go to the bathroom by going to the left or by going into the bedroom by going into the right. So, I followed that same plan. Now in the bathroom, originally, there's like a separate room for a toilet, and then there's also his and hers walk-in closets. And if you saw a second ago, I tried to get 2 closets in this build, but it just wasn't gonna work. There wasn't room, so there's only the 1 closet, but in all honesty, that's probably okay for The Sims. So this master bedroom, I wanted to go with something that was like more upscale, very elegant, but also very relaxing. So I went with more of that like white, what is that called? Wainscoting, maybe? I don't know. I picked wallpaper that I thought would kind of go in with the theme from downstairs, especially in the dining room, with having like, it was a little bit more upscale maybe, but it's more of a gray to pink to light blue room. With the exception of the pillows on the bed, there aren't really like strong colors in this room. Everything is very like soft and quiet, and hopefully the type of place that would, I don't know, give the parents who own this beautiful, beautiful home a spot to relax and to maybe get away from their children just a little bit. So this is it's just very elegant and gray. I'm trying to think if I did anything like super special or out of the ordinary in this room. I don't think so. I do have a laundry room in this house, so that's why there is a hamper in the corner. I think I do move it a little bit eventually. But then I also put in like a little corner seating area with these 2 chairs with the little accent pillows. And I really love those cherry blossoms. I think they're a base game plant, but they're not one that I use very much, but I love how they look. So I thought that just sort of tucking them into that little corner area would be perfect. So I used honestly, probably my favorite bed is that bed from City Living with the sheer drapes, and is it still called a 4-poster bed if the 4 posts are connected at top? I feel like it has a different name, but I don't remember what it is. But yeah, that's probably my favorite bed in the whole game. I wish we had more swatches on it, or I wish we had the ability to like change the colors on our own, which, I mean, maybe that'll happen someday, but I hate to say it, but I with every passing day, I feel like the possibility of that happening gets smaller and smaller, because as they continue to make more and more items without the ability to change the colors like in different channels independently from one another, I don't know. I feel like the likelihood of that happening is going to get smaller and smaller as time goes on, which makes me really sad. So in the entryway to the master suite area, I just did kind of an elegant wallpaper and flooring. There isn't really room in that room for much else because I have a double door leading off from the hallway, and then we have 2 doors one going to the bedroom, one going to the bathroom. And that was about all the space that I had. So this is the ensuite master bathroom. Like I said before, it has the big walk-in closet. And of course, because this house is a bit over the top. So it has like the big corner tub. It has like this huge sink area here along this wall. And then I think eventually, yes, I do put in like a bench in the middle of the room. So that way then, if you're getting clothes out of the closet, you need to sit down to, I don't know, tie your shoe or something. There's a bench there just to make it even more accessible and easy. So now I'm just going through and putting in more decorations. I really wanted, it bothers me that there isn't a slot by the sinks for that soap bottle to go. Because I know in The Sims 3 we were able to do that, where it would just like pop into position. But for some reason in The Sims 4 we have to like use the move objects cheat to like move out the sink and then put the soap bottle where we want it to be and then move the sink back. And it's just so much more complicated. I mean, it's doable. It's definitely doable, but the old way was a lot easier. So yeah, just going through and adding in lots of little clutter items, because I really wanted this house to also feel, while it feels upscale, it also is a family home. So like, I wanted it to feel kind of more lived in. Like there's a toilet paper roll in the bathroom, and I don't know why, I always get really hung up on towel racks when I'm decorating bathrooms. Like, if a bathroom is going to be served by 2 people, I try to make sure that there's at least 2 separate towel racks. I don't know why, but I always want to make sure that there's, enough towels for everybody. This is the only bathroom that I filmed decorating, because it's such a big room. I thought, okay, this could actually be a little bit more interesting to watch. There's another bathroom. There are 2 other bathrooms upstairs, and then there's another one downstairs next to the playroom. And those bathrooms I didn't film. I think I took screenshots of one of them though. They're pretty basic and straightforward bathrooms. So you'll see them, at least some of them anyways, in the screenshots at the end of the video. So now I'm moving on to the first kid's bedroom. So this is geared towards younger kids. I put in one single bed for a child and then another single bed for a toddler. I did take away that race car bed because I wanted the 2 beds to match. I do sort of wish we had a bigger race car bed, because a lot of the other toddler beds have a child-sized bed that matches it, which is so nice, because either you can do a bedroom with like one bed one size, the other bed the other size, and they can match each other, or once you have a toddler, once they, age up into a child and age out of their own toddler bed, then you can just plop in the same bed, just a little bit bigger. But for some reason, we don't have one for the race car bed, which is just sad. So this was the problem with doing that giant playroom downstairs, was then when I was doing the kid bedroom upstairs especially, I was a little bit at a loss of what to put in. So I put in the drawing table for the kid to draw pictures on, because that wasn't something that we had downstairs. I also put in the Void Critter battle station, which I have to say, when the kids room stuff pack first came out, like, that was so cool. And it still is cool, but I feel like Void Critters are one of those things that, because you can only play with them for one age stage, I don't know that they always get a lot of use. I know at one point there was a mod that let you open up Void Critters for people of all ages, but I don't think it's been updated for like over a year at this point, because I used to have it in my game, because like, it is a little funny. Like, it's something that's based off of like Pokemon, which Pokemon, yeah, it's probably mostly done by kids, but like, I would also argue that there's a lot of teenagers and even young adults and adults who enjoyed Pokemon when they were younger and continue to do so today. So I appreciate that was a kid-only activity, but typically, like, the kid-only activities that relate to a child's skill make more sense to me, but like, playing with the Void Critter, like, well, why wouldn't somebody who's a little bit older want to do that? Like, it just didn't make a ton of sense. So I think because of that, I tend to not do very much with the Void Critters. Like, I know there's like wall decorations for them, like, I think they're like giant stickers or something, and those I use in decorating, but I almost never have my kids playing with Void Critters anymore. But I needed something else to put in this room, and that battle station matches the like teal and white color theme that I had for that room, so I went with it. Moving down the hallway, this is the laundry room, which, yes, the original floor plan of this house actually has a laundry room included. So obviously I put it in because now we have laundry in the game, so why not? And yeah, so this is, it's interesting because like it's such a big room that I, again, wasn't quite sure what to put in it, because besides the washer and the dryer, it's like, okay, well, you'd probably need a space to like fold clothes and maybe like an ironing board or something like that. And, you know, a utility sink, which is always so helpful to have that inside of your laundry room, because then you can pre-soak things. And like, my current house does not have a utility sink by my washer and dryer. And it's one of those things where, like, when my husband and I were looking at this house before we bought it, I was like, well, why wouldn't they have it? Like, I just assumed that it was there, and then we moved in, and I was like, well, wait a second, I don't have a utility sink. Huh. So, it's not terrible, but it is one of those things that I just sort of assumed all houses had, and ours does not. So now I'm just popping in some objects on that big old shelf, which, unfortunately, because of how that big old shelf is, there's just not many things that can fit onto it. So I did some, sneaky move objects on, and I scaled things down. I do recommend with this house that if you place it in your game, that you use the move objects cheat first before you place it, just because there's a lot of items that were placed using move objects on, and especially once the landscaping part starts, there's a lot of landscaping objects, and some of them I think might be too close to the edge of the lot based upon like what their footprint is compared to the size of the actual object. So if you don't turn on move objects, some of those objects might disappear. So I just recommend turning it on to be safe. So this is now the teenager bedroom at the back of the house. And so this room, I went for like a Pottery Barn teen kind of vibe. It's very patriotic. It's literally a red, white, and blue color scheme for this room, which, it's maybe a little over the top, but I really liked it. And something about this color scheme in general, like, I felt like this could be a room where maybe it was painted slightly differently when people living in this room were children as opposed to teenagers, but maybe not, because, like, in all honesty, most people don't have like a completely redecorated bedroom from when they're a kid to when they're a teenager. I mean, like, you might do some things, but like, you're not going to magically get like all new bedroom furniture just because you're a little bit older. And maybe some kids you do, but I kind of wanted it to feel like this is more of a teenager bedroom, but it also would work just fine as a child's bedroom as well, especially maybe like more of an older child. So yeah, I used that giant rug from the Toddler Day stuff pack, and I had to scale it down because that rug is huge, but they had a really nice swatch of it with like red and blue carpets, and I was like, perfect, this works so well. So I didn't put computers on the desk because I always like it when kids are able to sit at their desk in their room to do homework, because again, and it might just be because I'm like old and that's how it was when I grew up, but like typically you don't have a computer in your bedroom, or if you do, it's like, you know, you have to share it with everybody or something. So I wanted to keep those desk spots clear so your Sims can sit down and do homework. So this is now the last chunk of the video. So we are doing the outdoor pool area, which I actually copied the shape of the pool in-game to the pool that was on the blueprint because, oh yes, the blueprint from this house actually had a pool. So I was like, okay. So the only thing that's a little bit different is that in the corner where the diving platform is, in the original, like, real-life build, that corner is like a jacuzzi tub that's like, it's kind of attached to the pool but also separated out with like a rock waterfall or something. It was something that we didn't have in the game, and I was like, you know what, we'll just put on the diving pool or the diving board there, and that'll be good enough. It's close enough to what it's like in reality. So I wanted like this nice little umbrella table with some chairs, and there's a seating area here on the porch with a big grill. I'm trying to think if I put out, I know we don't have like actual lawn chairs, but I think I do put out more seating. I don't remember what I put out here. But yeah, so I wanted this to feel like, you know, as tropical and beautiful as possible. I put out the drink platter from Backyard Stuff because that's the one that has like lemonade and sweet tea, and it's like the most expensive lemonade I think I've ever seen. Like a pitcher of lemonade is like, I don't remember, it's like 150 simoleons just to make some, you know, lemonade. Like, really? Really? Did I keep that? I think I do. I think I keep that bird feeder in, which, I don't know. I always like putting a bird feeder outside in my builds. It's just a thing, but like, it's so nice, and I like the effect of the birds coming in, because sometimes the Sims worlds can feel a little not so lively. I don't want to say they feel dead, but like when it comes to like wild animals and stuff, because for the most part we don't have wild animals roaming around. I mean, like in Brindleton Bay, like, you know, stray cats and dogs will spawn, but we don't have like, I don't know, like squirrels or deer or things like that. So I like putting in the bird feeder because it makes it seem like there's actually, I don't know, real life nature around us. So this is it. I just remembered that I decided to exclude the landscaping portion of the speed build because I think that would have added in like another 10 minutes because landscaping this house took forever. But I think it was well worth it in the end. I used a lot of palm trees and ferns and like tropical plants. So I think it's really pretty and very Florida-like. So this house is available for download on the Sims 4 gallery. There's a link to that posting on the gallery directly in the description box below this video, or you can find it by searching my username, which is Mrs. Tomato 1018, or you can find it using the hashtag Mrs. Tomato 1018. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this and listening to me ramble on for like almost 40 full minutes. I appreciate it if you stuck with me to the very end, but I think that this house was just so much fun to build. It was so, I don't know, it was just a good house. It was nice to have something like based in reality to kind of guide myself off of, because it gives me a little bit of a challenge to have like a little bit more structure and like, okay, I want this to look like this in the real world. So I don't know, if you're thinking about doing a build that's based off of a real life house, I definitely recommend it. I also recommend, if you are doing that, to try to find a floor plan, because that actually does really help when it comes to figuring out how you want the house to be laid up. And really, I think I got really lucky with this house. Oh yes, this is the one kid bathroom, by the way. But I think I got really lucky with this house as far as the floor plan goes, because it actually worked really, really well for the most part with the game. So yeah. Let's see, what else? I think that's about it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you haven't already done so, you can subscribe to my channel down below. I put out new videos every Monday through Friday. And thanks so much for watching. I will see you all later. Bye!